So, hello, dear friends, welcome all in this new session where we're going to continue with the chapter cell structure, in which we have already discussed the microscopy part. And now we will continue with the structures common to cells in all living organisms. So, there are certain structures which are common in all living organisms, whether it is a prokaryote or an eukaryote. So, what are these structures? The first thing is plasma membrane. So plasma membrane is basically the outer boundary or outer covering of a cell that actually encloses all the contents. So everything is present within the plasma membrane. So this is the outer boundary of the cell. It encloses all the contents. The plasma membrane controls the entry and exit of substances. So it can pump substances in, and it can also throw things out. So it depends on the functioning of the plasma membrane. So it has several functioning. It acts as a protective layer, and it also acts to help in transport of things inside the cell and throwing something outside. So it is very effective at preventing entry of unwanted or even toxic substances. It allows a cell to maintain concentration of substance that are very different from those in the surrounding environment. So that is how the living cells actually maintains a constant condition within this plasma membrane. The permeability of plasma membrane relies on the structure based on lipids. So the plasma membrane is basically made up of phospholipids. It is basically a bilayer which is made up of phospholipids. So occasionally the plasma membrane of the cell bursts. So in that condition we will call a cell lysed. It means it's broken and it will be dead until after the lysis. So it can be caused by certain viruses or other attacking pathogens, you can say, because of which it gets disrupted. If the plasma membrane is disrupted, the cell can be called as dead. It can even be carried out by a cell itself. Autolysis also happens. So sometimes if the conditions are adverse, in that condition autolysis might happen, and all these conditions might lead to death of the cell. So it is a very vital structure, plasma membrane. So the next structure is cytoplasm. So if we are talking about a cell, so suppose this is a cell, so the outer membrane, this membrane is basically the plasma membrane, and it is a lipid bilayer. So inside this plasma membrane, what is the basic fluid in which all the other organelles, DNA, the food particles and everything is suspended? So that fluid part of this cell is called as cytoplasm. So water is the main component of this cytoplasm, and there are several other substances that are dissolved or suspended in the water. Enzymes in the cytoplasm catalyze hundreds or even thousands of different chemical reaction. So it is the basis of all the chemical reaction that are taking place inside this cell. These reactions are metabolism of the cell. So all the metabolic activities are taking place inside the cytoplasm. Okay, and most of them actually, and if you're talking about a prokaryote, so it doesn't have several organelles. In that case, most of them will take place in the cytoplasm. But if it is a eukaryotic cell and has a lot of organelles, in that condition many of the reactions, chemical reaction or metabolic reactions, takes place inside those organelles, which we will discuss. So metabolism provides the cell with energy and produces all the proteins and other substances that make up the structure of the cell. So proteins are quite easily damaged. So even when cell is not growing, the cytoplasm must continuously break down and replace its protein. So suppose for example this is a protein, if it's broken or if it is damaged, suppose for example it's distorted and has become something like this, then in that condition this particular protein will be broken down by certain enzymes present in the cytoplasm, and it will be broken down into small components, and again the whole process will take place where a new protein will be formed. So this is the recycling of things also takes place inside the cytoplasm. So now coming to the next thing, that is DNA, which is basically the hereditary material. As we already discussed the structure of DNA, genes are basically made up of DNA. They contain information needed for a cell to carry out its functions, and several genes can be present, okay, within a DNA. So it is not necessary that one chromosome will have only one DNA, or will have only one gene. So basically the whole chromosome, so for example if this is a bacterial cell and this is its chromosome, it is circular DNA, you can say. So it might have a lot of genes present on it. So these are basically small sequences of DNA which we call a gene, and one gene is responsible for production of certain type of protein, and all these different genes combinedly produce different types of proteins, and which actually control all the growth, repair, metabolism and structural parts of this particular cell. So this is the whole scenario, like what is the use of DNA. So DNA is basically helpful in production of several proteins. So ultimate product of this DNA is proteins, and these proteins are structural. They might be structural, or they might be needed for growth and repair or metabolic activities. So others acts as enzymes. So metabolic activities are done by these enzymes. So several proteins act as enzymes also. So without which the cell cannot control chemical reaction, does not have a functioning metabolism. So DNA can be copied and passed on to daughter cells. So replication was the process that we understood. Through replication, DNA can be copied and passed on to daughter cells. So this information it stores is heritable. Heritable means it can be passed from one generation to next generation. That basically means if this is a parental cell, okay, if this is a parental cell and it has this DNA, it will be the same copy of DNA will be passed on to both of the daughter cells. The same DNA will be passed on to both the daughter cells. So this is how it is inherited to the next generation. So bacteria do not have nucleus and their DNA in the cytoplasm. Instead, use of DNA as genetic material is therefore common to all cells, but the location of DNA is not universal. Okay, so how it is not universal, we will just understand it. So let's understand two types of cells. So the prokaryotes are the primitive cells which actually came into existence in the very beginning when the life came into existence. So these are some of the earliest cells which are called as prokaryotes, and these prokaryotes, they actually do not have specific cell organelles like eukaryotes to do several functioning. So they just have a plasma membrane, cytoplasm. Their DNA is also suspended in the cytoplasm, and most of the organelles are absent in prokaryotes like nucleus and Golgi body, mitochondria, or endoplasmic reticulum, or several vacuoles. They are absent in prokaryotes. So prokaryotes have very simple structure. So when compared to eukaryotes, eukaryotes will have all the organelles I've just named. Okay, they'll have all these organelles, while prokaryotes do not have most of the organelles. So bacteria are prokaryotic. Okay, plants, animals and fungi and variety of other organisms are eukaryotic. So the key feature of eukaryotic cells is the nucleus. They have a nucleus which contains chromosomes. So just now we understood that DNA, presence of DNA might differ in cells. So that is the basic difference. In prokaryotes, the DNA will be suspended in the cytoplasm, while in eukaryotes, so there will be a nucleus present inside this cell, and inside this nucleus we will have our DNA present like this. So that is the basic difference in location of the DNA in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus, while eukaryotes do have a nucleus. Prokaryotes were the first organisms to evolve on Earth, and they still have the simplest cell structure. So most of the bacteria are prokaryotic, and they are small in size and are found almost everywhere in soil, water, skin, intestine, even the pools of hot water in volcanic areas, or whatever thing, like even now when you have washed your hands, so most of the microbes might get removed, but still there might be some bacteria present on your skin, on anything that you're holding. So bacteria are present almost everywhere. All cells have, in fact, we just read about some hot water spring bacteria. So they are present in adverse conditions also, in temperatures up to 75 to 80 or 90 degrees Celsius also. In those hot waters also we can find bacteria which are present. All cells have plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is universal if it is a living cell. Exception is only virus, which doesn't have a plasma membrane. Except for viruses, all the prokaryotes and eukaryotes, they'll have a plasma membrane. Some cells, including prokaryotic cells, also have a cell wall. So certain organisms have a cell wall outside the cell membrane. So for example, plasma membrane and cell membrane is the same thing. Okay, if somebody is saying plasma membrane or cell membrane, it is exactly the same thing. So certain cells, whether they are prokaryotic or eukaryotic, outside this plasma membrane, there might be an outer layer which is called as a cell wall. So if we talk about prokaryotes, several bacteria, in fact most of them, the component of this cell wall might be different in prokaryotes and eukaryotes, but they might have this cell wall present. Okay, so in most of the plant cells, there is a cell wall present outside the cell. But if we talk about animal cells do not have a cell wall, they only have a plasma membrane. But the cell wall component of a bacteria or plants or algae, they are different from each other. How are they different? We will understand that later on in this book. Okay, but few cells have a cell wall, whether they are prokaryotes or eukaryotes, and certain cells do not have it. So let's understand it. The structure is thick and stronger than the membrane. So cell wall is an additional layer now. So this was suppose the plasma membrane. The outer membrane is called as a cell wall, which is thick. It is rigid. It protects the cell from any sort of damage. This structure is thicker and stronger than the membrane. It protects the cell, maintains the shape, and supports the plasma membrane to prevent from bursting. In prokaryotes, the cell wall contains peptidoglycan. So if we're talking about bacteria, the main component of this cell wall is peptidoglycan. All right, if we're talking about plant cells, they will have cellulose as the major component of cell wall. And if we are talking about fungi, so they'll have chitin as the major component of this cell wall. So cell wall might be made up of different components depending on the species. There is no nucleus in a prokaryotic cell, so the interior is entirely filled with cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is not divided into compartments by membranes. Instead, it is uninterrupted chamber. So the organelles are basically not present. Therefore, it is a simpler structure when compared to eukaryotic cells. All of the enzymes or biochemical reactions, everything is taking place inside the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm of eukaryotic cells contains organelles that are analogous to the organs of multicellular organisms. Both organs and organelles are distinct structures with specialized functions. Prokaryotes do not have cytoplasmic organelles apart from ribosomes. So ribosomes are definitely one of the organelles that are present inside this prokaryotic cell, which are required for translation, that is protein synthesis. So ribosomes are definitely present. So ribosomes in prokaryotes are called as 70S ribosomes, while these ribosomes in eukaryotes, they are 80S ribosomes. Okay, so these ribosomes are basically two types in prokaryotes. They are 70S. So basically ribosomes is one organelle which is present in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes, while there is some difference in its structure. So in eukaryotes it's 80S and prokaryotes it's 70S. The S stands for Swedberg units. Okay, so this S is standing for Swedberg units. This is to calculate its structure. So Swedberg unit, do remember this term, Swedberg unit, which are measure of rate at which particles sinks during centrifugation. Okay, so particles sinks during centrifugation. That means if you put a centrifugal force, like if you put it in a centrifuge, at what is the sedimentation rate of certain organelle, that is the Swedberg unit. In many electron micrograph of prokaryotes, part of cytoplasm appears lighter than the rest. The region contains DNA. Okay, there is usually only a single molecule of DNA that forms a loop circle. So basically the DNA is naked and it is forming a circular DNA, which is a loop circle, and it's a single chromosome or a single DNA that is present in prokaryotes generally. The DNA is naked, unlike eukaryotic DNA, so it is not associated with any kind of proteins in prokaryotes, while in eukaryotes the DNA structure is more complicated. Rather than being naked, it is actually the whole DNA is actually bound with several proteins which we call histone proteins. So the whole DNA is bound with histone proteins so that it can be condensed whenever the cell division is taking place. Okay, so the lighter region of the cytoplasm is called the nucleoid. So basically it is composed of the DNA. It is similar to the nucleus because it contains DNA. So in this particular bacteria, if we are seeing this particular bacterial cell, so it is circular. If I open this DNA, it will look like this, but if you see closely, it will be something like this. So this is the nucleoid where the DNA is concentrated, although it is circular, but it will remain something like this. Okay, so this particular portion, it is not membrane bound, but the DNA is concentrated in this area and it is called as nucleoid. It is a similar to nucleus because it contains DNA, but it is not a true nucleus. Why is it not a true nucleus? Because it doesn't have a nuclear membrane outside it. The parts of cytoplasm appear darker in electron micrograph. Okay, they contain ribosomes, enzymes, and other proteins. So if you will see this prokaryotic cell under a micrograph, you will see the DNA part will look lighter when compared to the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm will look darker in these micrographs. Why? Because of presence of ribosomes which are freely suspended in this cytoplasm, because of presence of enzymes, and because of presence of several proteins in this cytoplasm. Okay, let's see this question. In figure 26 shows an electron micrograph of gram-positive bacteria, Clostridium botulinum. This bacterium produces neurotoxin, that is the most poisonous protein so far discovered. This neurotoxin is used in cosmetic treatment under the brand name Botox. So Clostridium botulinum's toxin is basically called as Botox. So we'll understand the procedure later on. Let's first of all solve this question. What causes the cytoplasm of Clostridium to appear so dark in electron micrograph? So here we can see this Clostridium botulinum bacteria. Here we can see this is the lighter part. So the lighter part is basically the DNA. This is also DNA and this is also DNA. The cytoplasm is darker in color, just we discussed, because of presence of ribosomes, proteins, and several enzymes that are freely suspended in this cytoplasm, because of which it is looking darker in the micrograph. Next is this image is a longitudinal section. You can see a thin slice of bacterium going from end to end. What shape would you see in the transverse section going side to side? So we are seeing this, the longer part. If we cut this bacteria like this, then what shape will we see? So definitely it will be the circular shape. It is like a long cylindrical thin rounded structure. If you cut the cylindrical structure from the center, if you see it from the top, it will look like this. It will be circular in structure. Okay, so the next question, there are two nucleoids visible in the cytoplasm of this cell. Why? What does this suggest it is getting ready to do? So students, definitely each and every cell will have only one copy of DNA, but if you're seeing certain particular cell in which double copies of DNA are present, that basically means the replication process has been just completed in this cell and the cell is ready to do the cell division. So definitely this cell is going to divide into two daughter cells, and where each daughter cell will have one copy of this DNA. So this here in this cell, replication has already been completed and we can see two copies of DNA present. So after that, the cell will basically divide into two daughter cells. Alright, coming to the next question, there is a scale bar on the micrograph. Use this to calculate the magnification of the micrograph. So here we can see the scale, which is 0.5 micrometers. Alright, and if you actually see the length in your book, so it is somewhere around, you can say, just a minute. So if just use a scale and see what is the length of this particular scale. So it is somewhere around 13 mm. So 13 mm, but we have got this in micrometers. So again, the same formula that we used for magnification. So first of all, we'll find out magnification. So if in the picture, this size is, if you say 13 micrometers, so 13 millimeters, so I'll convert it into micrometers by multiplying it with 1000. So this is 13,000 micrometer, that is the size of the image. And the actual size, so this is 0.5 micrometer, so I'll write 0.5 micrometer. So magnification we can actually find out like this. So the magnification is somewhere around 26,000x. Okay, so it's 26,000x magnification. So after finding out the magnification, what is the next thing that it is asking? Use this to calculate the magnification of the micrograph. So magnification we have found. Use the magnification to calculate the actual length of the cell. So we will first of all calculate the length of this cell. All right, so if we see the length, use a scale and see what is the length of this cell. So length of this cell is somewhere around 72 millimeters. So if length, actual image length of cell is somewhere around 72 millimeters, and if I know the magnification is this, so again I'll put it into the formula. So magnification we already know, it's 26,000. Okay, and image size is 72,000 micrometers, so we can write it 72,000 micrometers. And upon actual size, we want to find out actual size of this bacteria. We want to find out, so 72,000 upon 26,000, so actual size of bacteria will be equal to this. So we can just solve it out, and the answer will be somewhere around 2.77 micrometer. So this is the size of the bacteria. It is this small bacteria. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Now let's come to the Botox. So most of my students are really very much interested to know the process. So here it is one of the most poisonous toxins, but still a lot of dermatologists are using this toxin to actually relax the muscles of people, so that you get to see less number of wrinkles, or your muscles actually get numb if this particular Botox is injected, but it is injected in very less amounts. Okay, so that is how it actually works. So let's see this. The task is to research the connection between Clostridium botulinum and cosmetic facial injections. So primary purpose here is to basically do a cosmetic facial injection surgery. So it is likely to return results for business offering cosmetic treatments. This will be okay. So this task information, so let's just understand. So first of all, basically Botox treatment, it is used in very less amounts. This injection, this Botox, actually the toxin is taken in very less amounts, and wherever the frowning lines you see, so these are basically the muscles which are stressed most of the times. So they actually inject this Botox here, so that these muscles get numb. The neurological system here, it stops working, it doesn't receive any signal. So the stress in the, or the strain in these muscles is removed, because of which you see a relaxed muscle, and you can see less number of wrinkles in that particular area wherever Botox treatment has been done. But it retains only for around 6 to 7 months. After that, the effect of the toxin, it gets reduced, and again you get the muscles start getting the signals, and it again gets to start getting the strain. Okay, so this is how the Botox treatment is done using a botulinum toxin. Now coming to eukaryotic cell structure. So eukaryotes, just as we discussed, they have a lot of organelles present in them. When compared to prokaryotes, they are very complex structures. Okay, and here most of the systems are compartmentalized, wherever the different processes are taking place. Like for example, the most important is the nucleus. So inside the cell there will be a nuclear membrane in which the DNA will be present. So this is called as a nucleus. So after that, the ribosome, just as we discussed in prokaryotes, it's 70S ribosome, and here in eukaryotes it's 80S ribosome. Okay, so different eukaryotic cells are compartmentalized. areas are separated from the rest of the cytoplasm by single or double membranes. The advantages of having compartments are described here. Okay, so the main compartments or the organelles are mentioned here. Nucleus, just as we discussed, it is a compartment that holds the